fellow creeps, come on in once again to the Library of Horror Hotel, where it's time to once again examine and appreciate and discuss and celebrate the fine art of Halloween monster masks. That's right, because around here we elevate the love of Halloween masks from an ordinary hobby all the way to a legitimate medical psychological disturbance. Now, today's horrible monster happens to be, and it's been said you can never have too many zombies. Who said that? Okay, it was me. You can never have too many zombies, especially when they're really old school, old skull, old ghoul, old fashioned. Like this guy. This horrible thing is the Bayshore zombie. And if you're thinking maybe his parents were like Lucy and Ricky Bayshore, and that's his name. No, that is not really the case. This name, the Bayshore zombie, does in fact refer to the company that originally manufactured this guy. Now that was a different look, a little bit, and a different sculpture. It was a very cheap, very thin, flimsy rubber latex face mask. It was never intended to be a great work of art or really a collectible or anything. It was just a Halloween novelty, little dress-up novelty, little toy mask back in the day. Very simple, just had the elastic string on the back, and then copies mostly had a cheap wig stuck on there so that you would have some sort of hair. But it wasn't nearly as deluxe as this. It was just a cheap thing for you to put on at Halloween and, hand out candy to the kids on the porch or frighten your grandmother or whatever you wanted to do. But it wasn't a really deluxe thing. Then this one came along in 2024? 2024? Yeah, so we're gonna guess. 2024, 25-ish. Trick or Treat Studios. Yet, Trick or Treat Studios, I said. Oh, that's better. Trick or Treat Studios released this version for modern day collectors of scary things. Now, the Bayshore company is a company I personally don't have a lot of experience with or memory of. I know they were not specifically a mask company in the manner of Don Post or Be Something Studios or other Top Stone, places like that were more known for the masks, but they did have a pretty extensive line of masks. No, not expensive, just extensive. And the zombie was one of them. Now, when I first saw this one from Trick or Treat, I thought, oh, that was resculpted by Pete and Felice. But no, it was actually resculpted again by Justin Mabry. And the reason it made me think Pete and Felice is because Pete and Felice did indeed do an excellent version of this mask a few years ago as sort of a tribute to the old mask, which was originally available as far back as the 1950s. Wow, that's an old mask. But Pete's version, I guess maybe they didn't use it for Trick or Treat's edition because it didn't have the neck and stuff. Maybe that's why. But it was a slightly different sculpture, but pretty similar. Justin's here has probably a little more wrinkly texture going on. I think he's a great mask, even if you don't know what the heck he is. It doesn't matter that you know he's the Bayshore zombie. It doesn't matter he's from the 1950s and 60s. Where would people have bought one? The ads in the back pages of old comic books and monster magazines. You would have seen ads for the zombie mask. A lot of times it would just say the zombie mask. It would show this guy. And again, the company made other masks, but the zombie is kind of the one that stuck with people. As I mentioned, he is an old-fashioned guy, aren't you? He's an old-fashioned kind of guy. By which I mean he is sort of a Caribbean-looking zombie or maybe, from some mysterious island. The weird tribes that showed up in old movies. He's that kind of zombie. He's an old world kind of zombie. And as such, I think he's not the violent, attacking, blood-drinking, ferocious kind. I think he's more the slow, creepy, mummy-like kind of zombie. For one thing, he looks very tired. You may look a lot like this yourself when you first see yourself in the morning in the mirror. Do you ever think? Yeah, kind of like this. But also, one weird thing about him is that he has these teeth which makes him appear to be somewhere between Dracula and a walrus. Not sure about that, but he does have fangs. And the great thing about the Trick or Treat version, which really surprised me, I don't know if you can see this. Let's take the stuffing out. Let's knock the stuffing out of him. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. You might have to just take my word for it. But inside this bad boy, you can see this is real twine going through these stitches. Now, I think that's going way above and beyond the Call of Duty, don't you? That's something that normally would just be sculpted with little strips of clay when you sculpt it, and then you mold it, and then when the mask gets painted, those little things would get hit with paint, which is how it's typically done on Frankenstein monster masks. Okay, but Trick or Treat used real twine, and you can see it in there going through the little holes and sewing his mouth shut. And no, he doesn't need to talk. He communicates telepathically, so he doesn't need that. Now, for those of you who think, oh, I saw that in an old movie, I thought that too when I was a kid, and I first saw this guy somewhere, probably some old comic book. I thought he was supposed to be the zombie from the movie The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, which is a movie that came out in 1959, and I think I saw it on late night TV back in the days when the world was more fun and you could stay up late on Friday and Saturday nights and see scary movies after midnight. It's pretty scary. There are some problems with the plot. There are some issues I have with the story and such, but it's a scary little movie. Anyway, it did have a guy in it who has sort of a tall, thin face like this and does have his lips sewn shut. However, that's the only similarities between the two perps. This guy doesn't really look anything like the zombie guy in that movie. But if you think he looks familiar, you might be thinking of that because that's the closest thing I think I've seen in a movie. Now, I mentioned that a lot of the old masks had a wig attached in the back. And unfortunately, the Trick or Treat one has that stuff. I don't like this stuff as hair on most masks. This is called top roving. And I believe top roving is Latin for dark chocolate infused dryer lint. But all the masks use it these days, except for those that are artist made. So it doesn't really look like a real head of human hair. And okay, I shouldn't gesture towards myself when I'm saying real human, head of real human hair. Okay, fair enough, zombie. I told you he communicated telepathically, didn't I? Yes. This is a rotted, shriveled up, shrunken head looking guy. And I think this is one case where you can get away with having this nasty, clumpy stuff, whereas it wouldn't work nearly as well on a mask that was supposed to look like a scary person. You know, it wouldn't work nearly as well on a mask of Boris Karloff or Christopher Lee or Bela Lugosi or Hillary Clinton. It wouldn't look nearly as effective, but I think you can kind of get away with it in the case of a shrunken head looking zombie sculpted by Justin Mabry for Trick or Treat. One more thing, and that is my long-suffering wife Laura wondered what it would look like to see one of these with hair more like in the old days. And this isn't a wig, this is hair that she applied to one, but I would like to show it to you guys. This is more what you would remember if you were alive long ago enough, and I really don't know the years during which the zombie mask from Bayshore was made available. I know it was around as far back as the 50s. I don't know like what was the last year it was in production or whatever. But anyway, if you saw those old ads, you would have seen long, straight hair like this. And Laura, again, did not use a wig. She just glued hair onto. And this gives you an idea of more how he was originally designed to look. And I remember the old mask being blue, but maybe I'm just remembering one certain ad or something. I guess it was painted different colors and had different colors of hair over the years. It's a difficult guy to find any pictures of or references on, but a lot of people remember it because it was in all those old comic books and horror magazines. The Bayshore Zombie. Available from Trick or Treat for, what do you sell for? You don't need to whisper in my ear, you don't talk, remember? Yeah. About 65, 70 bucks. Okay. 65, 70 bucks, 60, 70 bucks, yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood of the haunted forest is where he comes from. And if you do happen to have contact with Pete Infelice of Devil's Workshop, you might know that he did hands to go with. Oh, they're so cool. They look just like old Don Post hands from like the 1960s. And they look like perfect matches, but I don't think he makes them anymore. So I don't know why I even brought that up to you. Let's lower the curtain on the Bayshore zombie. And I hope to see you again next week. And remember, my advice until then is go ahead and be just as weird as you really are, but no weirder.